Erebus. The fucking asshole that ruined everything for humanity forever. Beware of false prophets, which come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly they are ravening wolves. Matthew 7:15. And thus I clothe my naked villainy with odd ends stolen out of holy writ, and seem a saint when most I play the devil. William Shakespeare, Richard III. Fuck Erebus! The fifth most popular phrase in 40k, right after heresy, blood for the blood god, for the emperor, and Wah! I consider those that inflicted such ignominy upon me, and how they started their stories so nobly, and will end them in the gutter. They hate me not because of what I am, but because of what they were. They hate me because they turned, and I did not. The records of our enemies call us all turncoats, but I changed no allegiance. I was always here, just as I am now, aware of myself and the universe that made me. I lied with every breath I took except to myself. That is purity of a kind, and something that no other soul in this grand armada of renegades can boast. The fucker himself. Don't you want to punch his smug face? No, wait, you should want to exterminatus it multiple times over, and then let loose a death company or two on it. At least Horus skinned it at one point. What a bastard! No, seriously, that guy is the heretic of all heretics. If you don't hate him yet, just wait, you'll be screaming curses at his face by the time we're done. Seldom has there been a more reprehensible dick biscuit. Fantasy Age of Sigmar has Nagash, but at least he accomplished more and is fun in a love-to-hate kind of way. Baltec has Amars the Usurper, who in his universe ruined the Star League, but didn't give any objectively evil dark forces a leg up. 40k has that guy. Erebus, also known as Space Judas, is the most evil son of a bitch to ever disgrace the galaxy. Which is really saying something because the Warhammer universe is full of disgusting dicks like Honzo, Fabius Bile, Typhus, Hermann von Straub, and Lucius, and that's without getting into the many non-human examples, and is a dark apostle of the Wordbearers and one of Lorgar's trusted lieutenants. During a certain time, he became a devout servant of Chaos and co-conspired with Cor Phaeron in order to bring about the downfall of the Imperium. Though to Erebus's credit, whilst Cor Phaeron was able to corrupt his Primarch, it was he who was indirectly responsible for the Horus heresy. It was Erebus who manipulated events so that the Interrex were slaughtered instead of warning the Imperium against the dangers of chaos, who stole the anathema that corrupted Horus, and Erebus, along with Horus, who masterminded the Dropsite Massacre Istvan V. He continued to serve Horus as his spiritual advisor until he was exiled. And did we mention he's a toll bastard? Think of a smug jackass, then make him a master manipulator, multiply that by 10, and you're still not close enough. How about indirectly killing million, billion, trillion, quadrillion, uncountable numbers of people? That death toll isn't just from the forces of chaos either. Without the heresy, the Noble-Bright Imperium would have kicked the shit out of all the Xenos who were not active before 40k, and been in a much better position to deal with the newer threats like the Necrons and Tau. And, by the way, humanity is now in existential danger. Don't forget supercharging the power and influence of all the Chaos Gods. We mentioned his responsibility in starting that fun time, did we not? Seriously, this guy's bastardly douchebaggery cannot ever be overstated. It is not humanly possible to. Thankfully, as the heresy keeps on going, this slimy, hateful dick blister is getting his shit pushed in. Arguably, he wouldn't have been in the position to make the Imperium ruined forever if a certain Karen hadn't let the Chaos Gods scatter the Primarchs in the first place, but he's still the one responsible for pulling the metaphorical trigger. So he, and to a lesser extent Cor Phaeron, still has the lion's share of the blame. Fuck Erebus. Even if you knew nothing about the heresy, chaos, or the 40k setting generally, and just got handed a copy of the first couple of Horus Heresy books, you'd easily realize that Erebus is corrupting the living fuck out of everyone via the venerable Rasputin maneuver. He spends all his time just chilling out with no one else from his legion, hanging out where the action happens, and constantly being complained about. Everyone loves him in the first books except the main character. Poor Loken. And those two remembrancers. People should really listen to those guys more. This pretty much proves that no one else in the setting has even the vaguest ability to connect obviously connected facts. He's a slippery, creepy motherfucker, and if anyone had an ounce of sense, they'd have tossed him out of fucking airlock the second they set eyes on him. Despite being the main instigator of the heresy, it was hardly fun times for Erebus. First of all, he nearly gets sacrificed to the dark gods himself in order to make Horus see the truth, which pisses him off. Then, when he gets back to Davin, the priestess who almost killed him tells him that everything was just as planned and doesn't resist when he turns on her, ruining his petty revenge. Then, he gets to Calth to summon a lot of demons, only to have to teleport, or rather use a ritual to enter the warp and exit at another point, away before some orbital bombardment blows his sorry ass to Kingdom Come. After that, he rejoins his Primarch for a time, and finishing Lorgar's merry little crusade to turn Angon into a rage-filled demon Primarch, he stabbed Argel Tal, who was the best and coolest word-bearer to ever exist, in the back, because he was too humane despite being demonically possessed. Okay, Lorgar wasn't happy with that, since Argel Tal had been the one closest to his vision for humanity, and also because he thought Erebus trusted his visions too much, so he told Karn what happened. So, the next time Erebus was chilling out amongst the world leaders, fighting a couple of duels to first blood for fun, Karn stepped into the arena and challenged him. Sanguis extremis, or battle to death, because Erebus team-killed Argel Tal, murdered his last friend. Erebus, who'd never seen any of this in his visions, was taken completely by surprise and had the crap beaten out of him, ever-loving shit beaten out of him as the entire World Eaters Legion let out a collective damn! He was completely, utterly taken apart by a furious Karn, losing one hand and almost his life, but he escaped death by teleporting away just before the death blow landed because he's a cowardly fuck. After this misadventure, the slimy motherfucker decided he better put half the galaxy's distance between him and the World Eaters, so he went back to hang out with Horus. He tried to corrupt Sanguinius by setting up a trap for him where a couple of greater demons, Kabanda and Kiris the Perverse, teamed up to murder-fuck the hell out of the whole planetary system and used the power from said sacrifice to exacerbate the red thirst and black rage in the Blood Angels. By the time the heresy had only happened extremely infrequently, and Erebus only knew about it thanks to Horus witnessing Sanguinius having to put down one of his legionnaires. The whole plan was to engineer things so the whole legion succumbed and then make Sanguinius an offer. The Blood Angels would be free from the flaw forever, if only he joined Chaos' side. This endeavor notably failed because Apothecary Meros sacrificed himself instead of Sanguinius to absorb the Black Rage, and also because Horus had given orders to Kabanda to actually kill the angel. So, when Erebus learned his masterful plan had been ruined, he got pissy at Horus for throwing the whole planet into disarray. Horus took his reasonable complaints under careful consideration and, in an unparalleled act of restraint, only skinned the devious arsehole's face off, instead of ultra-killing him on the spot like everyone else present, even his fellow wordbearers, expected. Cause he's motherfucking Horus and he doesn't like being told what to do by some slimy little scheming fuckers. Funny thing is, Lorgar straight up told the slimy fuck that he had more chance winning the annual Astartes Bolters for Beauty pageant than corrupting the great angel before he even tried. But being the arrogant demon fucker he is, he didn't listen and lost his face meat for it. Not that it really mattered, however, because Beauty is only skin deep and Erebus doesn't give a fuck about how he looks, and he picked up the trick to use warp energy to regenerate from his Primarch. So he just continued being an absolute ass. Following this, Erebus decided that he had learned nothing over the last few years, and decided to try to dick over a Primarch even more likely to ruin his shit, Vulcan. He achieved this by team-killing a bunch of loyal followers, executing a yet another treacherous and incompetent bitch of an apostle who wanted to take his place. Because yes, there's something of a become Caliph in the place of the Caliph contest going on amongst the Dark Apostles. And making sure that John Grammatics got away with a Primarch killing weapon. Johnny took the Fulgurite, a mote of the Emperor's psychic lightning given physical form, nothing less, to Macragge in order to use it on Vulcan. Because doing exactly what Erebus wants you to do can only lead to good things. Or not, since Grammaticus ended up using it on himself thanks to the intervention of an even bigger dick. But it doesn't matter, since Erebus still has a bunch of other convoluted plans going on all at once. You might wonder, but no, he doesn't serve Tzeentch exclusively. At one point during the Horus Heresy, he made a way too ambitious attempt to assassinate the Emperor by making use of blank merged with a demon. Don't even ask. Without Horus knowing, he sent the abomination to go and hunt for the Emperor's blood. The mission was of course doomed to fail when he intercepted the strike force of Imperial assassins by total coincidence, believe it or not, sent to kill Horus. They ended up killing each other, much to Erebus' frustration. Horus in the end found out and forbade the use of assassins as weapons, considering them tools for cowards. Betrayal of your sons and brothers though? Totally honorable, not cowardly. We all know how well that ended up. Fucking hypocrite. He also collaborated with Callus Typhon in corrupting Mortarion, giving him evidence in order to frame the Death Guard's navigators as being agents of Malcador the Sigillite, allowing Typhon to get away with massacring them so he could lead the Legion into Nurgle's trap. He also attempted to assassinate Malcador by implanting a Manchurian Candidate-style trigger into Tylos Rubio, but that failed. It seems this guy's plans only actually work when they involve corrupting a Primarch. Not always sanguineous. Unknown to virtually everyone, Erebus was on Terra during the siege, although nowhere near the big party itself. He went to visit the scub mother herself, Erda, whom he called grandmother. Weird vibes aside, he fanboyed over her a bit and tried to offer a position in the New World. She declined and shaded the living fuck out of him for being farcically jumped up on his own theatrics, even calling him a vaudeville reject. Possibly the only good thing she has done. He sicked 4 greater demons on her, which she defeated but was left mortally wounded. Erebus then killed her. Maybe. Hopefully. It's kinda vague. His last action in the last Horus Heresy book has him kill Loken, creating Samus. Fuck! He claimed it was to ensure Samus' birth, but we all know he did it just cuz. He now spends his time playing games of chess with Corphaeron, with entire companies and fleets of word-bearers as the pieces. For giggles, naturally. Erebus currently holds a position in Lorgar's Dark Council. He showed up in the 13th Black Crusade to sacrifice 1,000,000 innocents to the gods of chaos, and then, having apparently fulfilled his contract and knowing they were going to fail once more, took his words and got the hell out of there. He has shown notable distaste for Abaddon's status as War Master of Chaos, believing that a new War Master is needed, which goes to show that just because you spent 10,000 years chilling in the Eye of Terror doesn't mean that you forfeit common sense. Pity he can't do much about his own boss's capacity to lead, which is diddly damn fine by him since he gets half a legion and no Primarchs to cramp his style. Now, you might wonder, didn't Erebus groom Abaddon to be the next War Master? How do you screw up this many of your own plans? Well, that one wasn't exactly his idea. He merely went along with the Big Four's plan B, but even back then, considering how insufferably smugly he acted, it was clear Erebus didn't think much of Ol Abbey. And this hasn't improved in 10 millennia. Rumors abound that Lorgar is back at the head of the Word-Bearers these days, and exactly what he thinks about how good bad Erebus and Corphaeron did while he was being butthurt about Horus kicking his arse remains to be seen. Because Games Workshop wants you to improve your culture, you should know that Erebus is the Latin name of the Greek god Erebos, meaning darkness in ancient Greek. Seriously, who the fuck would name a child this way? Some Colchizian yokel who never even heard of Greek, that's who. Erebos was one of the first beings to emerge out of chaos, and it quite suits him since he is a Chaos Space Marine, and the very first one to boot. Also, according to the short story Child of Chaos, Erebos isn't even his real name. When he was a lad on Colchis, there was a nice well-respected religious boy who went under that name. So Erebus killed him and stole his identity to snag a position in the cushy and lucrative priest caste of the planet, proving that there was never a time Erebus wasn't a total asshole. Bit of an inverted version of Calgar's origin. Erda. The other fucker who ruined everything for humanity forever. In the grim darkness of the 41st millennium, not even the Emperor of Mankind is safe from the horrors of child custody. Erda in a nutshell. So, basically the entire Horus Heresy has been reduced to Karen took the kids? Some Anon's description of Saturnine.
All this for a family squabble.
The Bullet Farmer, Mad Max, Fury Road. Oh boy, where do we begin? First appearing in the Horus Heresy novel Saturnine, an overall good, not really, I gave a 5 out of 10, it was okay review. Erda, Old High German for Earth, get it? Mother Earth, is a perpetual who used to be one of the Emperor's closest allies' fuck buddies. Some heretics even believe that she was Biggie's first and only girlfriend waifu on a whole baby factory throughout the eons. Whether or not E-Money actually fertilized Mother Earth with his big, throbbing power sword, we have no idea. but we do know that Erda would have had the galaxy's strongest ovaries to handle the genetic makeup of Big E's manly bits. Dun dun dun, yes, Erda is the Primarch's mummy. Not sure how Big Bobby G's foster mom, Tarasha Uton, is gonna feel about this. Maybe we can get them on Jeremy Kyle. In all honesty, as one mother to another, she'd probably just rip Erda a new one for being the worst parent in the history of parents. TLDR, authors realizing that the heresy was a bigger sausage fest than a hot dog stand, trying to add a woman in an important role, and utterly failing at it. A warning on what you are about to hear. With the release of Saturnine, her entire backstory has caused scub and nerd rage on a scale not seen since Matt Ward's Ultramarine fan mic and Grey Knight power scaling. You have been warned. Proof that Abnett isn't perfect, if the Cabalog hadn't already driven that home. For all intents and purposes, as a perpetual, Erda was one of the oldest living beings in the Imperium. She met the Emperor in Terra's ancient past when he was a warlord king known as Neoth in the Age of the First Cities. At that time, the Golden Daddy was already shepherding mankind into the path that would lead to the creation of the Imperium. Erda grew the hots for him, and we can't really fault her for this because any normal woman could not resist the guy. I mean, just look at the hair and those pecs. Anyway, Erda became one of the Emperor's closest and most loyal advisors, and during the Unification Wars was his chief geneticist along with Astarta in the creation of the Primarch Project. The other Perpetuals by this point had pretty much cast out Big E's camp as fringe radicals who were pushing the evolutionary envelope too fast to guide mankind's evolution into a superior species. She was among the last to leave Big E's inner circle, since he was the only one with the power and skill to see visions of what humanity had to do in order to survive. Since the other Perpetuals knew that humanity didn't have time to naturally evolve due to various threats ready to end their species, and maybe all of existence, their opposition to Big E's efforts made them stupid at best and evil at worst. More than likely both. However, this is where the true scub begins. While it makes sense that the Emperor had chosen Erda as the Primarch's mom since they're both Perpetuals with complementary genetics, Big E prevented Erda from taking part in their lives so he could prepare them for the upcoming Great Crusade. Like any overbearing mom, this pissed Erda the fuck off. She was concerned that her sons would be tools for galactic conquest, as if 21 giant demigods would be doing anything else anytime soon. An automaton like yes men, something the Emperor actually didn't want. Erda had to save her kids, even though all of this would be part of their genetic programming and thus utterly out of her control. But this didn't mean raising them with Big E to be responsible adults who would attain eternal lives of glory and luxury. Unfortunately for everyone, Erda's way of saving her children involved creating a warp vortex to help the Chaos Gods scatter the Primarchs across the galaxy. This is backed by the novels Valdor, residual chaos energy could be detected in a room, and Warhawk, the scattering wouldn't have been possible without your Erda's intervention. And Erebus makes it very clear that the Chaos Gods are real glad that she did, but that they apparently aren't sure why she did it. What Horus and Argaltal were shown in the warp by the Ruinous Powers and Demons respectively is a lie. Rather than this fuckhead ruining everything, humanity was doomed and its future was stolen by a self-righteous cunt. It was an act of such idiocy and lunacy that by saving the Primarchs from the Emperor, it condemned some of them to a childhood worse than death. One wonders how they'd react to this revelation. It's a combination of stupidity, evil, and self-righteousness that few, if any, characters in 40k can match. Her decision-making skills are so shit that the most evil beings in existence are both pleased and confused by her actions. She then had the audacity to not only refuse the blame for her actions and insist she did nothing wrong, but blame the fall of her sons on themselves and Big E. Jesus H. Christ. The fact that Erda seemingly knows of chaos and its corrupting influence makes her actions unimaginably more heinous. Due to this, Erda officially wins the Galaxy's Worst Mom Award. Fortunately, she gets a bit of comeuppance when Erebus attacks her with some kind of psi-mind rape and floods her consciousness with the truth of the consequences of her actions, making it very clear to her that this was her fault. She had just come off an engagement with 4 greater demons that she killed fairly easily, potentially even true deaths thanks to Enuncia, but Erebus's attack brought her to her knees as the sheer horror of the truth, its magnitude, and the consequences of what she'd done were laid bare. It's more horror than she can comprehend. It brings her to the point of despondency, and when she's facing the end, she exclaims to Erebus that Big E was actually worth it after all. No shit. It gets even funnier though, because more than a few of the Primarchs thought that the scattering was deliberate on the part of the Emperor. If only they knew. And so it was that now, very late in the series, after the Cabal arc was dead, we get her helping forge the setting by being a bad mom on a galactic scale and jeopardizing mankind's survival. Only the old ones being dicks to the Necrontyr and kicking off the war in heaven, with all of its consequences, has done more to form 40k's bedrock. Fuck. After Erda pulled an oopsie, she then went into hiding for many years. E-Money, understandably, had the mother of all god rage, but strangely enough, he never sought to retaliate against Erda, possibly having figured out through divination that the current timeline of eternal stalemate and war was the only option, even when he knew where she was. Or maybe he just uncharacteristically forgave her due to his love of playing favorites. By the time of the Siege of Terra, Erda was living in exile at Gelb, an ancient site in Mauritania close to her birthplace, with a group of servants and even her own personal boy toy called Litu. Litu claimed to be an original Astartes predating the creation of the legions and the diversification of the gene seed that came with the Primarch project. An odd statement since other lore claims that the Dark Angels were the baseline and the other legions had their gene seed cultivated from modified DA stuff. Guess DA was the more refined basis? Alternatively, he could just as easily be an unrefined prototype, much in the way the Call's Primaris prototype, Alpha Primus, is in the current era. His name comes from LE2, which might mean Legion 2 and trigger our missing Primarch sensors, but is really a reference to the prototype Space Marine miniature. She was eventually visited by John Grammaticus doing his best Nathan Drake impression. Grammaticus sought Erda's help in getting into the Imperial Palace and had also arranged a rendezvous with All Person at her home. Erda was shocked to hear that All had become involved in the affairs of the human race again and expressed worry over his fate when he did not arrive. Though sympathetic to John's cause, as she too loves fucking over humanity and being a moron, she ultimately said she had no way to help him enter the palace due to, a certain couple's quarrel. In Warhawk, Erebus visits her to convince her to join Chaos because of, reasons. Seriously, Erebus just, appears out of nowhere? How that dick knew about Erda or why he was even remotely interested in that dumb broad, we have no clue. Predictably, she says no and gets jumped by 4 greater demons and wins due to super special psychic mumbo-jumbo TM bullshit and or utilizing Enuncia. Specifically, she transformed into a knockoff of the Wiccan triple goddess, but was severely wounded in the process by Erebus. He tells her again, but this time to worship him if she wants to live. She spits at him, which predictably leads to Erebus poking her face with the Athema, killing her. Sort of. It cuts off before the finishing blow. Overall, pretty fucking lame way to go on both parties, both from Erebus thinking a 48,000-year-old Karen would help in any way to the heresy, and for Erda in getting punked to the face. So yeah, Erda came and went, which again asks the question on what was the point of her existence if you give her less screen time than fucking Caliphany?